We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. Now, the day you're going to be hearing this is Sunday. I'm recording it Friday night. Ed was on yesterday, and we know how you all love Ed. So, Ed was on Saturday, and this show will be Sunday. And I think there's going to be a lot of people interested in it because you see me every day, and you know Rational Boomer and all that shit. But the motherfucker sitting next to me here is you probably all know him too. His name is Tom Powell. He's got big presence on TikTok, on YouTube, and other places. Tom, we got our people together. Your people called my people. We finally worked out the deal, and you finally showed up on the podcast. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Well, the reason we got together because you reached out to me and wanted me to be on your podcast, and I'm happy to do that. I'm honored to be able to come on the podcast, and that's going to be later down the road. And I said, yeah, but I'm on every fucking day. I need content every day. How about tomorrow? And you were good enough to say yes. So thank you very much. Um, we can talk. Let's talk a little bit about TikTok because we both have that in common, and a lot of people who
Okay.
listen to us know about TikTok. I have a feeling that you had a similar experience. When did you start on TikTok?
My first day on TikTok was December 10th, 2020.
And I was November 20th, 2020. So we're about the same point. Um, and when I went on, I'm older than you by about 12 years. Um, my wife, my kids, everybody around me said, "What the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And I explained that I spent all my life in radio. If I had been a carpenter, I'd be building cabinets, but all I can do is talk, so I go on TikTok. But nobody believed that there would be any traction gained by anything I did. Did you? You had to have a similar experience.
Well, I didn't. I when I first started TikTok, I didn't think I was going to get 1,000 followers. I was convinced that I have a face for radio, so nobody was going to really watch me. I had been doing Facebook for like a decade and almost a decade and a half prior to that, and I had been doing more and more on Twitter back when it was Twitter. And in December of 2020, I got banned from both of those accounts. Within a couple of hours of one another. I got a 30-day ban on Facebook for a meme that I posted, and I got a lifetime ban on Twitter because after I got my ban on Facebook, I went to Twitter and I was all pissed off, and I called Laura Ingraham a hag, and it got me a
A
lifetime ban
hag?
on.
That was
Yes,
it?
yeah, that was it.
Fuck.
And I got a lifetime ban on Twitter. And my wife looked at me and said, "You should start a TikTok account." And I went, "What, that fucking dancing app?" And she goes, "Trust me, you're gonna love it. The video content's addictive." And so I started my account on December 10th, the day that I got my two bans. And I didn't do anything until like the week of Christmas. And I posted like three videos of my Christmas tree and my dog. And then I didn't do anything until January 6th. And when January 6th, 2021 happened, I said, you know what? I've been talking about politics on Facebook for years. I've been talking about politics on Twitter. I might as well talk about it on TikTok and see what happens. And that's when I started making political content on for video content.
Well, and that's what we have in common because I have a personal Facebook that I don't post on much, but I had a Rational Boomer Facebook, and I had a fair amount of followers with it, but I got permanently banned on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. They just wiped me out of the whole thing. So I said, "Fuck it, I
Oh,
don't really care about Facebook anymore." But you bring up the banning, and this is interesting, and I've been trying to figure this out for a long time. You and Hawk have gone through some trials and tribulations with being banned on TikTok. I mean, first you're on, first then you're off, and then we get Aaron from Go Live Vegas, who's been helping us out. He hasn't really had to help me out. Here's the thing: you may or may not believe this, even though I don't have as many followers as you did. I have never been banned. Not once
oh,
have I ever been banned.
that's fortunate.
And, well, it is fortunate, and I see if you think this makes sense. The reason I don't think I got banned is because when I started it early on, I started getting the Trumplafucks, and they're coming in, and I'm arguing with them in the comments. And my son goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Fucking idiots are just, I need to argue with them. I can." And he said, "Look, think of it as if you were an artist." He goes, "You're not, but think of it as if you're an artist. Put your art up, let them talk amongst themselves, figure out what they like and what they don't like. You just move on and do the next thing." So that's what I started doing. Um, and then after that, every time I saw a Trumplefuck in my comments, I block them. I must have blocked tens of thousands of Trumplafucks. And the premise was my platform was more important to me than arguing with Trumplafucks. So if they can't see me, they can't get me. And I think that maybe would help me there.
What helped me was actually quite the opposite. What I did is I started doing reply videos to comments. People would leave a comment and I would do a video either correcting their information or calling them out on their hypocrisy or something of that nature. And that's what caused me to jump. And I'd say that for the first 3.5, 4 years of my life on TikTok, it was 90% video replies to the
Right.
Trumple bucks, and then people started eating that up. And listen, I was doing it because it was what I felt, and then people like really enjoyed that type of content, and then I started doing other type of content, and they were like, "Oh, so you're not just politics?" I'm like, "No, I do travel content, I do food content, I do Gen X content and music content, certainly marijuana content." I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
Lord knows that. I go, but yeah, it's predominantly politics. And then I noticed that the hodgepodge of following was this guy followed me because of the travel content. This guy followed me because of the weed, and all of these people for the politics. And it wasn't just a political page anymore. So it was weird how things jumped. Like because I was okay and then I did a video one day driving in my truck and I was pissing and moaning about people telling me to go do my own research. And I said, if one more fucking idiot tells me to go do my fucking research, I'm going to lose it. And I talked about how my eye was twitching and I didn't think I could pronounce anything with the letter R for about a week. And I posted that video and I got 18,000 followers overnight and
Wow.
130,000 followers that week. And then it was just a
Shit.
snowball effect. From there, it was off and running.
Yeah, back in the early days of TikTok, it was better times as far as building an audience
Oh, yeah.
and getting away with stuff. As time went on, TikTok got slowly degraded. Um, I have a premise. I've talked to people about this. I hate Donald Trump. I know you hate Donald Trump for very good reason. But it's very possible without Donald Trump, you and I might not have the followers we have today.
Oh, it's extraordinary. It's his insane level of political existence has given an unlimited number of content to create. I talk about this all the time. If you're a food content creator, you're doing like you're showing recipes. Yeah, you're going to go years and years and years, but eventually you're going to run out of fucking recipes. Right?
Yeah,
You're a travel creator. Eventually, you're gonna run out of fucking places to go. But if you're a news, political slash social creator, it never ends. The content never ends. But he just takes it up a notch,
yeah.
and
Well,
and he makes it so that all of his cult followers want to engage you, and so it really enhances the content that you're already creating.
the only negative thing about doing news or politics or Donald Trump stuff, unlike a lot of the fun stuff that you see on TikTok, it has a shelf life. If I do a TikTok today, a week from now, it's worthless because it's already past its expiration date.
Yeah,
Um,
it's old news now.
yeah, it's old news. So a lot of people get a lot of play out of old videos, and mine, and I'm sure the same thing with yours. They're kind of worthless and they're kind of pointless at that point. Same with the podcast here. Now, one of the things, there are only so many. I watch TikTok a lot because I like to get information and I've got a mind that I'm just a freak for trivia and shit like that. Um, but the one thing I like about the way you do it that I feel kind of a kinship for, there are people out here that do what we do, and some of them are these doomsday guys. Oh, we're fucked. But you, being from Chicago, you have a similar attitude in that I am, no matter how bad it is, fuck it, we're going to fight these people. And I appreciate and respect that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I haven't thought about moving out of the country. I have, especially considering the fact that what I do for a living now, I can literally do anywhere that I have an internet connection. I
Right.
have, I've said to my wife, if it wasn't for the amount of family we have in the area, I would look at you and go Costa Rica or Jamaica.
Yeah.
Or do you want to go? I was looking literally right before I came on. I follow a guy on TikTok who's a real estate agent in Tuscany, and like I was looking at a 30,000 euro house in Italy, and I was like, it's 35,000 US. We could. Are you shitting me? We could be there in a. You know what I mean? We could be there in a week. I could do this from the fucking the villa, the outside the villa. Anyway, but I want to stay here. I was born and raised here. This is my fucking country too. And you know what? You don't get to have it. You don't. My fucking grandfather fought against fascists in World War II.
So did
You
mine.
don't get to have my fucking country. I'm sorry. If you want a fascist country, you are more than welcome, MAGA, to go form a fascist country. Go find yourself an island. Go find yourself a piece of land and form yourself a fascist. You don't get this fucking country.
Exactly. And part of the reason I started doing this, and I get the sense the same as with you, I just got pissed off. Now, I'm not one to lose my temper and scream and yell, but I can talk my ass off. And I just felt it's almost cathartic for me to come out here, say whatever I have to say, and then I can be calm later because I've already talked my shit. Um, I've found, and I'm guessing you have too, there are people that follow us because they like what we say, because they want to say it, but they aren't in a position or just can't do it because of their job or because of their family or whatever. So they need somebody to be their voice. And I know for some of my followers that's been the case, and it's got to be the same for you.
Oh, absolutely. I know people that are in governmental positions or positions of some type of importance that if people understood their political position as publicly as they understood mine, it would probably cause them problems at work or whatnot or what have you. So yeah, there are people that send you messages that say, you say things that I can't say. I know people in like government here, local in the county and whatnot, that are like, we wish we could say some of the things that you say on the Facebook, the local Facebook pages. When I call out some of the dumb fuckery I see on the pages here with all, I live in a more red than blue area. In the
Right.
far southwest suburbs of Shanahan, a lot of Trump flags in yards, but it's turning purple. But you get these guys and they oppose every solar farm and they oppose any ounce of progress and it's just like, oh my god, guys, just we don't want multifamily here because we don't want the scourge coming out from the city. And it's the same fucking guys that like rip on the city of Chicago while wearing a Bears jersey. It's like, get the fuck out of here, you
Have you
know.
gotten to have you gotten to the point where you've realized that arguing with these dumb fucks is just not worth it? You can throw facts in their face, you can shove stuff down their throat, and they will contradict you no matter what, even though they don't have a point of view, even though they don't understand what's going on. You just cannot argue with them.
Yes, but it is profitable to do, first and foremost.
Yeah,
And you can use their dumb fuckery to convince people that might be on the fence or that might be a little bit more moderate or might be a little bit more independent in nature, or people that are maybe not even politically active, but they see what's going on in the country. They're freaked out by it, and so they start paying attention, and they're hearing some misinformation. So I use these people, I correct their misinformation, and I spotlight their dumb fuckery to try and win over moderates, try and win over independents, and make money off of their stupidity. Is it useless? Yeah, it's like trying to nail Jello to a fucking wall. I'm never going to convince any of them of any of it, but god damn it, I'm going to go make a whole lot of money doing it.
yeah. No, I've had a couple of Trump fucks come on here because they thought they were going to kick my ass, and they got destroyed, not because I'm a genius, but because they're dumb fucks and anybody with an average or above intelligence could have done it. And it's funny, when on those rare occasions when I've torn somebody up on the podcast, people say, I, I, I couldn't listen to it after a while. I had to shut it off. But it's the most listened to podcasts that I've
Yep.
done. People love
Yep.
the shit show.
And listen, it does get exhausting after a while. And I see people that do stay on lives on TikTok for hours on end and have MAGA people come up and argue with them all day long. And I commend them for their commitment, but I couldn't do it. Like I make my videos, I have my bursts, and I have my moments where I talk to these people through content. but I could not sit there for 6 hours and argue with MAGA. I would lose my ever loving mind. At some point in time, it would be like this. It would be me going, "Listen, dumb fuck," and then
Exactly.
now it's no longer a conversation at that point in time.
No, eventually it's, I think I, I think one of the problems that Trumplafucks, that's my word I coined, that I use forever, Trumplafucks, with people like you and me is that we don't fit the stereotype of the Democratic liberals,
Yeah.
the more tolerant. And so when somebody says something to me, because inevitably I can avoid talking about politics, but they just see me and they got to say something stupid, and then I've got to respond. And when I get in their face and say, you're a dumb motherfucker because of this, and put them in a corner where they can't answer their questions, they're taken aback because they think liberals are just weak, pansy ass
Yes.
bastards that won't fight back. And then they run into somebody like you and me and they go, what the fuck?
Another thing that I don't know if you experience this, but I know from my personal standpoint, what drives them nuts about me is that there is no boss to call and piss off. There is no job to get me fired from.
Exactly.
There's no exposing my real name or where I live. I tell people, yeah, I'm Tom Powell Jr. I'm on Valley Drive in Shanahan, Illinois, and they go, Stay. What they'll do is they'll type my home address in my lives in the comment section, and I'll go, yeah, that's you coming over? You bringing tacos? What are you doing?
I
Did you
ha-
think I was going to go? Oh, my address is out there. I do fucking TikToks in front of my house.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. At 65 years old, when I was younger, I was a little rough and tumble. I got in some fights, and some part of me thinks they're so stupid I could still kick their ass if I had to. Probably wrong about that, and hopefully I don't have to get into any fisticuffs. But I don't run into people that, I mean, do you get much in the, I always hear people coming on TikTok crying, oh, I got a death threat, or people were mean to me. People are mean to me all the time. I don't fucking care. I'm just glad I got in their heads. But do you get many threats? I don't.
I did for the longest time. I got a great deal of death threats. I got to know a couple of FBI agents from the Chicago field office by our first names. I had one in particular. There was an account that kept making. They must have had two or three dozen different accounts, variation of the same name, variation of the same profile picture. They were using some other person's profile picture and name, and they would threaten. They would say they would leave a bomb on my porch. They said, "We left a bomb on your porch this morning. Have your daughter go pick it up and call her by name." Say they were going to cut me up and throw me in the river. They were going to abort my children with their shotgun. So when the FBI finally made contact after, because they consider that cyber terrorism,
Yeah.
you give them all the screen names and the dates and the times and the screen grabs. They made contact, and the turns out it was a teenager,
Uh,
and his parents were quite shocked to learn that their house was the target of an anti-terrorist investigation.
yeah. I bet he quit. I bet he quit.
Yeah, and so I've learned that here's what I've learned: the people that are going to do it aren't going to tell you about it. They're not going to talk about it. If somebody
Right.
wanted to come to your house and try to actually cause harm to you, they're not going to be the. I had a guy from Texas say he was got drunk one night and say he was going to come up here and murder my whole family. Well, his dumbass used his real fucking name from his goddamn real estate agent account, and he lost his job the next day and all of that, and he never came up here, right? Because the guys that are going to talk about it are never going to do it. So if you see somebody running their mouth, you got nothing to worry about with that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people, I don't know if you get this, but people come up to me all the time that are friends of mine that know what I do. They go, oh, you should be careful. And I said, this world, everybody's afraid of everything. And the whole point of what Donald Trump and the Trump administration is doing is to create fear. I'm not going to give them what they want. I always use a phrase from the great Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac was going on stage one time, and the guy before him bombed, and he stood there and he looked at him and he goes, I am afraid of you motherfuckers.
Fuckers.
And that's
Yep.
my attitude with these idiots.
And he kept saying it over. I ain't afraid of you motherfuckers. I mean, he was just that. I mean, that's it. I'm you want us to put my address out there? I've had people put satellite images of my home on TikTok and say that I had children locked in cages in my basement.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and I'm just like, I'm not afraid of you motherfuckers. You can't cancel me, you can't silence me, and you're not going to intimidate me into running. The only reason I've thought about leaving the country is because we got 3 more fucking years of this shit, and we're already at the point where we're arresting reporters for covering protests.
Well, that's I wanted to talk about that. You and I have this in common in that you had ICE, or maybe still do, in Chicago, and now, of course, we got this ridiculousness going on in Minnesota. I grew up in South Minneapolis, not far from where George Floyd was killed, not far from where Renee Good was killed, not far from where Alex Preddy was killed, and it's sad for me to see that area because it's a pretty quiet area. It's a pretty calm area typically. And to see what's going on in Minneapolis, there was definitely an agenda by Donald Trump. He didn't like Tim Walz. He didn't like that we didn't vote for him. And he was trying to make a point, and he was trying to use his bully tactics to get us to get fearful and back down. I think a lot of people didn't expect Minnesotans to go, fuck you, we're putting 70,000 people in the streets and we're pushing you back. Did that surprise you about Minnesota being a fellow Midwesterner?
No, it didn't. I saw the response in LA. I saw the response in Chicago. First of all, I didn't think he was going to get away with that shit in Chicago because in 2016, when he was originally running for president, Chicago was the only city he had a rally planned for that he never actually made it to the fucking stage because the
Yeah.
people in that city said, "You're not fucking doing that here." But no, Minnesota has been a blue stalwart for years. And Minnesotans remind me of Canadians. And if people know anything about Canadians, they understand that that's why the fucking Geneva Convention even exists. These
Yeah, exactly.
motherfuckers are crazy. And then Minnesota is just an American version of Canadians that are like, yeah, I'll put you in a fucking wood chipper.
Yeah, and that's true. I always say to people, there's Minnesota nice, but don't fuck with them. You know,
Yeah.
I, I mean, I'm from Minnesota. I'm nice enough to everybody, but if you fuck with me, I'm going to cause you some problems. And do you think that I think people are looking at what's going on here as bad as it's gone and the fact that people have died. Donald Trump is retreating at this point a little bit. Um, he's getting what he didn't expect. And it just goes to what I've always said about Donald Trump. There's one thing you can always count on him for. No matter what he does, he will fuck it up in the end. He will say something or do something to fuck it up. And this has become kind of a big fuck up for him because he's not getting what he wanted.
Well, not only is he not getting what he wanted, but he's pissing off the party in ways that he has never dreamed of pissing off the party because the party sees what's going on and they realize what it's going to equate to is it going to be an absolute ass whooping in the midterms. And they're looking around going, wait a minute, this motherfucker can't run for office again. He's got no more elections to run for, and he's going to fuck us in the last midterms. So now you're seeing some of these ones that are not going to run for office again. I know they always grow a spine when they don't have another election to run for, but some of
Right.
them are starting to stand up and go, hey, no, this is not right. We can't be doing this shit about the ice presence, about Greenland,
Venezuela.
and if you see in Indiana, even about the redistricting.
Yeah. People, um, when Donald Trump got elected, and I'll be honest with you, I don't do predictions, but when that election was coming up, I saw absolutely no way that Donald Trump wins that. No way that Donald Trump wins that. I
The
thought
first time?
just the 2020, 2024, I
Four.
didn't think
Okay.
he'd win that. I thought the overturning Roe v. Wade would be enough to shut his ass down, but I never thought he would win. I think the Democrats pretty much flubbed that whole fucking situation with Biden and then go to Kamala with 90 days. Um, but after he was elected, I said, here's the deal. He's given the Republicans all they can expect out of him. He now becomes a liability as opposed to an asset, and they'll probably kick him to a curb before he does anything fucking crazy. But here we are a year in, and they still haven't done it. I'm surprised they haven't done it by now.
Well, I think the pressure is mounting on a couple of different fronts. He's fucking up in the streets of the American cities. He's pissing off our NATO allies. And I have long said that I truly believe that the Republican Party is going to use the Epstein files as a reason to jettison Trump from their ranks. They're never going to be able to wash the stain off, but they're going to look around and go, here's the way they're going to sell it to their base. The people who want to vote for Donald Trump and wear the red hats. They're going to go, listen, we agree with him on policy, but look at what he did. We can't support this.
Right.
They're going to, when it comes to Greenland, his base will still push back and still it's good policy. When it comes to ICE, his idiot base will still push back and go, no, it's good policy. When it comes to the potential sexual assault of children and some of the things that we've read so far in the document dump that happened today, the party can look at that and the leaders can look at that and go and sell that to the people and say, we can't have this in our ranks. So we've got to jettison him now.
Well, yeah, and that's been the main problem for them is they're afraid if they impeach him or do something to him, they're going to lose the 30% that are in the cult of Donald Trump. So what you're saying is you've got to destroy his reputation with everybody, including the cult, so you don't lose them when you finally get rid of him. You brought up the Epstein files, and earlier today on Friday, they released 3 million files or documents on this case. We still don't know all that's in it, um, but I did see your TikTok about it. You were pretty fucking fired up about this shit. We were reading. You were reading some of the documents where it talked about describing what Donald Trump was accused to being done with these tips to the FBI. Then they were taken down, and I think they put them back up. But those things that they were talking about, having parties at Mar-a-Lago with a calendar girl thing and measuring body parts and checking tightness I mean, it's just fucking horrific to think about it. And I could see that it it hit you in the wrong fucking place because you were pissed.
Well, I mean, I have three daughters. I have a 15-year-old granddaughter. I have a 10-year-old granddaughter. And I for years and years and years, I'm constantly being told by people in Donald Trump's camp that anybody on my side of the aisle is a pedophile.
Right.
Everybody on my side of the aisle doesn't give a shit about children. And we've got to bust into drag story hour at a library. We got to tell people that they can't read certain books. They can't be had books read to them by certain people. But you motherfuckers are going to gloss over the fact that this guy most likely trafficked in children. You're going to figure out a way to gloss over the fact that he is credibly accused of having forced himself inside of children against their will. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, it's got me a little bit worked up from a standpoint of being a father, from a standpoint of being a grandfather, and from a standpoint of listening to these motherfuckers for 10 fucking years tell me I'm a fucking pedophile because I supported Joe Biden or Barack Obama and I didn't support Donald Trump. No, motherfucker. What makes me a pedophile would be if I supported Donald Trump.
Well, exactly. And it's I always kept hearing people say it's about projection. Whatever he's accusing, he's guilty of. And I thought that's a stupid strategy. Why would he do that? But every fucking time,
Every
that's
time.
exactly what it is. Every time he says something, it's something he has done. Now, I have two sons. I have a daughter-in-law and I have a granddaughter. And the whole point of me doing what I'm doing here is about my kids and grandkids. I'm 65. I got my life pretty well set up. I'm comfortable. I'm content. Uh, but I don't want to die and leave burning rubble for my kids and grandkids. I feel like I got to do something about it. So it does kind of work me up a lot too. This. What bothers me about this Epstein thing is this has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
Todd Blanche comes out and says, "Okay, we put the 3 million out. Um, they redacted ridiculous amounts of stuff again. He said the other 3 million aren't appropriate according to the law, so they aren't coming out. So we're done here." And somebody said, "Well, what about the co-conspirators uh, that have been talked about?" Ghislaine Maxwell talked about 29 of them. Somebody else talked about 20 co-conspirators, and he said we have no evidence of anybody that we could prosecute for being involved with children. And I'm thinking to myself, you got two people that were convicted of child sex trafficking.
Hmm.
You can't convict those motherfuckers unless you've got people they've trafficked too. And whoever those people are complicit and responsible for this. This is such a blatant, stupid cover up. It's
Well,
frustrating.
what Cash Patel would have us believe is that Jeffrey Epstein only trafficked in children to himself. He didn't traffic in children to anybody other than himself. That is an absolutely ridiculous assertion. And this is coming from a guy who pounded his fist on the desk during the election saying, "Make me the head of the FBI and I'll release every word of the Epstein file on day one." Then he testifies before Congress, "We don't have a client list. He only ever trafficked to himself." Pam Bondi said the files are sitting on my desk. Then we don't have any files. Then we have files, but Trump's name's not in them. Then we find out that Trump's names are all over the fucking files. Listen, at the end of the day, every one of them is complicit in selling their dignity, their credibility, and their soul on the altar of fucking Trumpism to protect the fucking pedophile.
Yeah, and when I talk to people on Facebook or whatever, and they support Donald Trump, I just say pedo protector
Yeah,
because you know if you're a pedophile, you should personally I think you should be executed because you can't be rehabilitated. Secondly, if you support these people, at the very least you're an accessory after the fact. The
yeah.
whole reason we haven't had, they in these things that come out and they say, well, there's nothing there. You've got tip after tip after tip after witness after survivor who have said that this has happened. Okay, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe there is no evidence. But you didn't even investigate the motherfucker.
Nothing.
Joe Biden sniffs his granddaughter's hair and it's the fucking world's on fire and he's a pedophile. Donald Trump has 26 accusations minimum from women for sexual assault. He's been adjudicated a rapist. He's been tied to Jeffrey Epstein. All these things come out and everybody goes, "No, he's from God. God sent him."
And and that's not even including his own pedophilic thoughts that he has expressed over the decades. He's talked about wanting to have intercourse with his own daughter. He's talked about bragged about walking in on naked teenage girls. He's talked about, well, this one here, I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. I mean, if you put everything else to the side, if you found anybody else on the planet that said as many pedophilic things as Donald Trump did, you would be like, is anybody watching this motherfucker?
Yeah, it's it's a red flag. I mean, if we knew somebody like that in our lives, we certainly wouldn't let them around our kids, and
Not in a million years.
we would assume the worst. What is it about? I mean, people say it's the cult. This is the thing that I find the most insulting. In 2016, when I didn't like Donald Trump, the reason I didn't like Donald Trump is because I had a father that was a narcissistic motherfucker. He made a lot of money. He was similar to Donald Trump in a smaller way, but I knew exactly what he was going to do and how it would end. It will end badly because it always ends badly for narcissists. They always crash and burn. But I didn't like him at that point. I understand maybe why people voted for him in 2016 because they're tired of government as usual. I get that. 2020, 2024, those two people to me are irredeemable. I see them as just too stupid. They can't, they can't justify after you've seen it, I've seen it, they've seen it. How can they say that's my guy? The insult to me is that we have this many stupid fucking people in this country. At least 49%, according to the 2024 election. 49% of the people in this country are motherfucking stupid.
Yeah, it's well, I'm going to go back to 2016 for a moment and say I understand what you're saying. People took a flyer on Trump. People took a chance on Trump. I would argue that by the time 2016 rolled around, we knew who Donald Trump was because he put himself in
True.
front of a camera for the previous 4 decades and showed the world what a piece of shit he was. And
Right.
what I'm amazed at is how anybody ever voted for this guy. And I'm convinced that if you could invent a time machine and go back to a period in time to before Donald Trump got involved in politics and ask every single person that would eventually end up voting for him in 2016, would you vote for Donald Trump if he ran for president right now? To a man, they would all say, are you talking about that New York elitist who bankrupts companies and fucks around on his wife, shits on a gold toilet? I would never vote for that piece of shit. But he puts an R next to his name, tells you he hates the same people, and he has done politically what he has been able to do in his personal life over the course of decades, and that is convince stupid people to buy his shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't understand how I can sit and talk to religious folks, and I argue with religious folks. I consider myself a Christian. I don't belong to churches because, as far as I'm concerned, churches are run by humans and they're tainted. If I want to talk to God, I'll fucking talk to God. I don't need to go through somebody. But they will fight with me. The whole situation where the protesters went into a church in Minnesota, and then
Oh,
Don Lemon has got arrested because he was reporting. It's ridiculous. But these religious people will come to me and say even Democrats would say this. Oh, that's sacrosanct. You can't go into the church. Um, I question whether it's a real church if the guy running the church is an ICE agent or a regional director. It's hypocritical. But these people will say, you can't go into the church. That's what kind of people you are. And I said to this religious person, I said, so let me get this straight. You're upset about going into your church, but you're cool with kicking in people's doors, violating the Constitution, dragging old people in the snow in sub zero temperatures, kidnapping children and put them in a detention camp, shooting innocent white people on the streets of Minneapolis. That you support, but you're mad if I walk into your fucking church. I have a lot of problems with evangelicals. I think they are some of the worst people and part of the biggest problem why Donald Trump is doing what he's doing.
yeah, the evangelicals are a huge problem. It's also the utter and the complete and utter hypocrisy of these people to say you're not allowed to walk into a public church where people are welcome to come in and worship at any point in time, but they should be allowed into a private daycare where other people's children are so that they
Right.
can video the children. Could you pause this for one moment? My water pill is working overtime.
No problem.
So like I was saying there, they want to be able to go into where my kids are, where there's other people's kids are, where we entrust organizations and businesses with the safety and education of our kids, but we can't go into their public churches. There's a level of hypocrisy there that's not only astounding, but I can't even fit it into my head. You don't get access to our children, but you want a private church? You want a private tax-free church? And it wasn't, and I want to just throw something else in there. It wasn't just Don Lemon. It was four reporters, all people of color.
Yep.
They're not even hiding it anymore.
Well, and they always talk about weaponizing the DOJ, and they're certainly doing it in this case because Don Lemon isn't going to get prosecuted, probably. Even if he does, he's not going to get convicted. We've got the First Amendment. I mean, these motherfuckers are trying to take away the First Amendment, and now with this situation with Preddy and his gun, they want to take away the Second Amendment. Imagine that. These motherfuckers that said Biden and Obama were going to take their guns. What Donald Trump said, you're a criminal if you're carrying a gun, essentially takes away the Second Amendment from these fuckers that have been screaming about it.
Yeah, people in this country think right now that they have a Second Amendment right. I mean, it's written in the Constitution, it's in our laws, but until our courts and our legal system actually fight back against the notion that a president can say you can be assassinated on the streets for legally carrying your handgun, then we don't actually have a Second Amendment in this country.
Well, and I've often said when you talk about the First Amendment, I think most people don't have a First Amendment. The few people that have First Amendment are you and me. because we can literally say whatever the fuck we want and nobody can hurt us. You may have the First Amendment, but if you work for somebody who's going to fire you over it, you really don't have the First Amendment. Um, there are ramifications from the things you say, but you can even say correct and decent things and piss somebody off and get fired from a job or get a family member to to exile you into
Oh,
something else.
absolutely. Absolutely. And in today's day and age, even if you're not somebody that can be doxxed and or fired, I mean, you say the wrong thing tomorrow and you're canceled.
Well, and you know what's funny about this? I've never heard you do this, but I've heard other people, big creators, do this. They'll get caught up in what they're saying, and they'll say something out of emotions or whatever. And I try never to do that. I don't walk back anything I say because I do think about what I'm going to say, and I'll stand by it. But people who are on TikTok or even on YouTube, uh, they'll get fired up about some comments or something, and they'll say something that's a little over the line. Hawk has done that a couple times. And then he goes through all this shit and all this drama. And I wonder sometimes, do those creators do that on purpose for to stir it up a little bit and get more views? I'm not saying Hawk specifically, but when they get in their own little dramas.
Like in some instances, yes. Like when you think back to the Womblands drama, right? It's just people feeding into the drama and the bullshit, and it's almost like if things are too calm for too long, they got to stir up shit, right? I've said things that have pissed people off. Like for example, I'm a capitalist. And I don't believe that every landlord on the planet should be summarily executed. So for a period of about 4 weeks, I had I had for about 4 weeks, I had kids, people that were between like 17 and 24 that were self-avowed communists with pictures of Stalin and Mao in their profile pictures coming after me, telling me that I should be put up against the wall and executed along with all the landlords in this country because I didn't think that all landlords were evil. Like I'm opposed to corporate landlords, but if you worked your ass off and owned 4 rental properties to supplement your income, I don't think that that's a problem. They think that you're evil if you do that. So I've had my fair share of issues with people on my side of the political aisle because I said the wrong thing, and I told them if I get information wrong, then I get information wrong. If you don't like what I've got to say, then fuck you. I mean, I've
Yeah,
had Jolly Good
exactly.
Ginger come after me for what I said.
Jolly Good Ginger came after you. Wow.
He came into one of my lives and ripped me apart in one of my lives.
Really?
There was a trans kid who made a TikTok. It was years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. There was a trans kid who made a video saying that he was braver for saying that he was trans than any soldier that ever stormed any beach in any war. And I made a video saying, dude, I'm not saying that you're not brave for coming out as trans in this type of society we live in. But to say that you're braver than any soldier in any war is just fucking ridiculous. And it pissed off some people in the trans community. And I was live one day on TikTok, and Jolly asked to come into the live, and I let him up, and he started ripping me apart about my position. And I said, well, you think your way about it, and I think my way about it. And he goes, well, let me ask you a question. Are you a veteran? And I said, no. And he said, I am a veteran. You shouldn't open your mouth about the veteran community if you're not one. And I went, well, are you trans? And he got all pissed off and then left the fucking live, and I was an asshole.
You know, yeah, I've never run into that. I've had people call me and or call say, when I'm talking about like there was this young girl and she was kind of shy and she was dealing with depression. She was trying to build her TikTok and people were telling her she's not pretty enough and all that stuff. And I went out on my TikTok. I said, find this girl. She'll make you smile. Follow her. And then all of a sudden she's got 25,000 followers. Um, but I had the audacity to say, this cute little girl, just go help her. And of course, people will come along and say, you shouldn't call her a little girl because she's a woman. Well, she's 20 and I'm 65. To me, she's a little girl. And to think that I was trying to diminish her or insult her, That's
Yeah.
fucking stupid. I don't even want to hear that shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, people are going to come after you for damn near anything that you do. People on your side, people on the opposing side, and what I think that you need to do is that you need to own the things that if you put out information that was incorrect, you need to own those things. But if you feel a certain way about something and that is how you feel, you shouldn't let people bully you into feeling a different way, in my opinion. And listen, I am fully open about all of my flaws. About, I was born in 72. I grew up in the 70s and came of age, in the 80s. And, the world that I exist in now is a completely different world than the one I grew up in.
No question. I was born in 1960. I came of age in the 1970s. I remember sitting, my youngest son was in the living room, and he and his buddies were on the DL talking about pot, and they were saying things. And I was never a big pot smoker, although I did, but I never really liked it that much. But they they started talking about something, and I corrected what they were saying. They looked at me and go, "What do you know about marijuana?" I go, "Motherfucker, I grew up in the 70s. Everything you're doing now, we pretty much fucking invented. It's just fucking." but but I wanted to bring something up. We were talking about how Donald Trump gets elected and reelected, and see if you agree. I put a lot of blame on the media. And here's why. I spent a long time in the media. I did news and I did all kinds of different stuff. It's my contention that in 2015, if somebody put Donald Trump's feet to the fire for his lies or his bullshit and pressed him, he might not ever have been president. But instead, they chose to say, oh, this is funny. This is going to be good TV. Let's let him burn this shit down. They never pushed him in a corner. They were either afraid of him or they were too interested in him creating more noise and more followers. We don't have any journalists per se, except maybe some of the independents. And because of that journalism, we got two problems. Donald Trump got to run roughshod because he was good TV, and we've got media outlets that tell different stories, so that divides us. I think media has played a big part in the disintegration of what we once had here in this country.
I think that there is a lot of distrust for the media for
Oh, no
sure,
question.
especially among the millennials and younger in this country. The younger you get, the more they distrust the media for sure. And the media certainly did play its role. I do not argue that point at all. I'm of the opinion that at the end of the day, no matter what the media tells you, no matter what the candidates tell you, you still have to own walking into that voting booth and pulling the trigger for who you voted for. And when I look at the numbers of people, I do videos about this all the time. When I look at the numbers of people that voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary, but
Yeah.
then didn't abstain, didn't write in Bernie Sanders, but literally physically switched their votes to Donald Trump in the general, I look at those numbers in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and that's the election right there. It's literally the difference in the election.
Yeah. People keep talking about, you hear this on TikTok, how Donald Trump stole the election in 2024. There's some interesting things about it. People kept asking me, well, he stole it. Maybe we can expose it and then Kamala will be president. I said, listen, even if he did steal the shit, if there's nobody going to do anything about it, or if there's nobody that can do anything about it, it doesn't fucking matter.
There is zero legal mechanism by which Donald Trump has to vacate his election win and Kamala Harris becomes president. The best case scenario is there is damning evidence that comes out that Donald Trump stole the election. He is convicted, arrested, and convicted for it, and JD Vance becomes the new president. That's it. That's what
Yeah.
happened. Or worse yet, Chuck fucking Grassley.
Yeah. That old motherfucker. Eric is a guy who I have on the show frequently. He's from Iowa, and he says Chuck has been there forever. And his joke is that Chuck was born before the invention of chocolate chip cookies. Fucking imagine being that motherfucking old.
It's listen. People say term limits. I think that term limits, if we can regulate Congress, term limits are not something that we want necessarily. But I am definitely for an age cap.
No question. People always say to me term limits, though, and I go, great idea, but how are you going to get it done? Because the people that fucking vote for it are the ones that are voting against themselves in the process. We have to get Congress to put in place term limits, and they're just not going to do that.
It's the same reason why my regulatory and reform bill will never pass because Congress is the one that needs to pass it. But if we could get a regulatory and reform bill that reins in Congress, then what we can do is we can get money out of politics. We can make sure that politicians are actually beholden to the people that elect them. And once you get money and power out of politics, you get down to the people that actually want to serve. And then I don't know that you want term limits, right? I don't want to go to my mechanic and go, you know what, you've been my mechanic for 21 years. I think I need to
Right.
find a new mechanic. He's a damn good fucking mechanic. I want him to keep working. Same thing with my
Right.
plumber. Same thing with my
Right.
electrician. Same thing with my fucking politician. If you're good at what you do, I want you to keep doing it. But if you're dog shit at what you do, if all you do there is raise more money and pass bills that shit on me, well, then we got a fucking problem here. And I think we're at that point in this country where we got a big fucking problem.
Well, the answer to term limits is just vote the motherfucker out. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Just vote the motherfucker out. Um, the One of the things about Donald Trump, I think, is that since he's been in office, he's done so many bad things. And through doing those bad things, he's exposed a lot of shit that's probably been in this government for decades. You know, the corruption and the bullshit that's going on. It just flew under the radar. They were better at hiding it. Donald Trump is like a bull in a fucking china shop, so it's all out there in front of you. He throws it in front of your face. Does this give us an opportunity when this finally ends to address all this shit? And do you think we will address it?
I think the answer is unfortunately something that neither you nor I want to hear, and that is this: your generation and my generation need to die off in order for the younger generation to be able to put the people that they know are going to actually give a shit about them into office. And here's the deal: the millennials. So I was raised by a baby boomer mom and a silent generation dad, and so I have a lot of the attributes of the both of those generations. I then pass that on to my kids, and I see the millennials out there having some of that about them. But from Gen Z on down, it is a completely different attitude. So I have two Gen Z daughters. I have a millennial daughter, a couple of Gen Z daughters. Gen Zers were taught in school a lot of what they were taught was in group project format, and they were taught very early in life that a rising tide lifts all boats, that these group projects are meant for you to not only learn things but learn how to work with other people in society. And they've taken those lessons in school into their personal life, and they are of the opinion of, why aren't we all pitching in for everybody's healthcare? Why aren't we all pitching in for the betterment of the society? Why did you old fucks set up a system where our tax dollars go to the rich and don't serve the people? And so I think that mentality that the Gen Zers are going to bring into the political realm is going to completely change everything. Once we die, once Nancy Pelosi's in a box, once, and I mean naturally, not, you know what I mean? Once I'm in a box, once all of us are gone and they can truly have their way. And I would probably say less so with my generation because you had a very large generation. I had a small generation in between yours and the millennials, and
Yeah.
our generation has sort of been skipped over, and the levers of power have gone from the boomers to the millennials and the Gen Zers. And
Right.
I'm
Right.
fine with it. My generation doesn't need a place at the table. We're fine. We're in our retirement age. We're smoking our weed. We're good.
I always love that on TikTok when I see that. Now, you have to understand, I was born in 1960. I'm on the young end of boomers. I just happen to be on the young end. I probably have some attributes of Gen X. But I love how the Gen Xers come out there and say, well, we did all this, we were latchkey this, and we did that, and we were the tough guys, and we didn't give a fuck about anything. I got to tell you, some of us young boomers aren't that much different. You weren't the only tough guys out there. You weren't the only ones left out with the street lights.
And some of the older millennials.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I have a millennial son who's going to be 39 years old, and he's a totally different guy than I am. He's more like his mom, so I don't understand him at fucking all. But um, I try to explain to these young people they can complain about the baby boomers, and I'll admit there are many baby boomers I hate. I'm not racist, but I hate a lot of old white motherfuckers, and because I'm an old white motherfucker, I can get away with it. Um, but I try to explain to them. I said, look, you can be mad at us because of the way it went, and whether we're at fault or not makes no difference. You have the opportunity to change it by taking control. We understand that in 2028, there's going to be the largest block of voters are millennials and Gen Zs. It won't be the baby boomers anymore. You know, baby boomers are dying 10,000 people a day. Um, so I said, here's your option. You either get involved and you vote, or some old motherfucker like me is going to determine your destiny. And after we're dead, you're going to have to live with all that shit. So it's an easy choice. Stop bitching, fucking get involved, and take control. I'm happy to give them control. I just want to be left alone and enjoy life and go out with my wife and travel. I don't want to be
Yeah,
worried about this shit all day.
and they have an opportunity to create the world that they believe should exist. What they need to do is they need to start thinking on a local level the way that the far right movement in this country is thinking at a local level. They got to start thinking about school boards. They got to start thinking about county boards and township boards because that's where the infiltration is beginning for the next wave of far right conservatives. And these people have an opportunity to blunt that. They have the numbers. They have I think they have the better ideas. And personally, I'm going to sit back and hopefully watch them handle it because, I think Kamala Harris was Gen X's chance, and now it's going to move on to the Pete Buttigiegs of the world. And I mean, I know Gavin Newsom's a little bit older, but it's going to start moving on to the younger generation, and I think it rightfully should. People my age shouldn't be making laws. We're not going to be around long enough to be affected by these
No,
fucking laws.
that's what I said about overturning Roe v. Wade. 99% of the people that chose to overturn Roe v. Wade can no longer procreate. They don't have the juices to fucking do it.
Yeah.
So why should they have that opportunity? It made no sense.
And it's always just been a bullshit ruse anyway, because they keep arguing that they want to send it back to the states, but then they want to have a national abortion ban. So you're not actually interested in states' rights. You're interested in control. And it's just it's a shame to see that we are regressing the same way we did 100 years ago now. 100 years ago, we were in 1926. We were
Yeah.
heading into the Great Depression. We were heading into the rise of fascism. We were heading into World War II. And that was followed by this great economic boom after the success of the people that fought back fascism. I fear that we're heading right back into the same time period.
People always come to me and they say, "Oh, it's over, we're done." And I try to tell them. They say, "Why do you always have hope?" I said, "It's really the only fucking option. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to curl up in the corner and cry." But everything we've gone through in this country, we've gone through bad times. There was trials and tribulations during the 60s. That was fucking crazy. I was just a little kid at that point. The only thing that really pisses me off about the 60s, I was born in 60, 10 years old in 1970. I missed out on all that free love bullshit. Fucking missed out. And then when I got into the mid 70s, I had to work my ass off. So I was upset about that. But we always seem to get through it and come out the other side. We know, like with the Depression, it was very right leaning. And then we come out of that with FDR, with the more progressive stuff. And people are thinking that after going through what we're going through now, that we may have to swing way left in order to right this whole fucking ship. Do you get that sense?
Uh, no, actually, I think that we need to bring it back to the center. I think that the political pendulum does swing. We listen, okay. I think that coming out of what we're currently experiencing with the Trump administration and the far right fascism that we're experiencing, we may need a new contract with America. But then I think it's time to bring it back to the middle because I do think the political pendulum exists within the middle. the middle, center left, center right, center left, center right. And then we get
Yeah.
on these tangents, these wide swings, and that's how we end up with presidents like Donald Trump. And I think I always thought that what we were doing with Biden, with Obama, was bringing it back to the middle, but they always freaked out. A black man with an African name. Holy shit! They're trying to destroy our country. So they went further right, and then we bring it. We try to bring it back to the middle with Biden, and then they come back with Trump again. And I just fear what they're looking for next. So I think we just need to bring it back to the center, and I think that we need to go back to a period of time where it's like this. I'm going to live my life. You go live your life, and I'm not going to fuck with yours as long as you don't fuck with mine.
I've made this analogy, and you can relate to it because you're in Chicago. Um, I agree. If we're left of center, I'm okay with that. Be reasonable about things because I think as much as the far right people are crazy, a lot of the far left people are crazy too.
Oh yeah.
But the analogy is this: we've all been in this position. We're driving during a snowstorm. It's snowing like a motherfucker. Your car slides to the right. You're going into the right ditch. What do? You crank that motherfucker all the way to the left. And now you're going to the left. And then you crank it to the right. And it takes a while to get you back to the center. And I think that's maybe what we're going to have to do. I mean, I don't know if you would call this far left, but what we're going through now with the subsidies and the ACA and not extending that, and 24 million people getting kicked off of health care. When we get into a new presidency, a Democratic presidency, I don't want to talk about reforming or fixing the ACA. We need to literally look at universal health care. I mean, I get Medicare, so it's not on me. I'm talking about the rest of the country, my kids, my grandkids, everybody else out there. Every other industrialized nation has universal health care. We can't afford it if we tax the people properly. We can have Social Security healthy if we tax people properly. But I'm hoping that when it gets so bad with the healthcare, like we're seeing now, that there might be a bigger appetite for universal healthcare.
I certainly hope so. I know that we currently, as a self-employed entity, making all of our money off of content creation now. We have to pay for our own insurance. And I mean, we have a United Healthcare Bronze. Hey, this will help you out if in case you get a fucking heart attack coverage. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
$1,800 a month for us.
it's
And
fucking
so
crazy.
people ask me, you probably get the same question, right? If you were president for a day, what would you do? And I always say, well, that's not how our government works. But if you're telling me that I could be the supreme leader of the United States for one day, and I got to pass one thing, I get to initiate one thing that is never going to be overturned and is going to help the most people in the best way possible, universal health care. It allows everybody to get coverage. It allows people to no longer go broke because they got sick. It frees people up from being chained to their jobs. It's going to free up entrepreneur. And it is moronic that we have a bunch of people that constantly tell us how star spangled fucking awesome the United States of America is on a nearly daily basis. But then when it comes to universal health care, they go, we can't do it. So every other industrialized nation can do it, but not us. We're so fucking star spangled awesome that we can't figure it the fuck out.
But the thing is nobody says we can't afford it when it comes to a $2 or $3 trillion tax break to wealthy people, or putting $1.5 trillion into the defense fund when the closest person is China with 300 billion. I mean, there's no reason for it other than people making money. When we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about insurance companies, we're talking about big pharma, talking about medical. This is all about making money. And as long as we have people in Congress, and I'm talking Democrats and Republicans,
Oh yeah.
sucking on the teat of the big medical or they're going to continue to keep us in this situation. And I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I've always said that because I don't join fucking clubs. I don't trust clubs. I'm more about good versus evil, right versus wrong, and whoever that is, I don't give a fuck what group you're in. But we've got to somehow get people to understand, dumb fucks that are broke in Alabama to understand, yeah, we can afford it. It's not communism. It is socialism, but we already have fucking socialism. Those SNAP payments that you're counting on down in Alabama, that's fucking socialism. You gotta stop listening to the bullshit. You got billionaires telling you lies and you're sucking it up like it's true. It's fucking ridiculous how dumb people are.
I have found that if you sit people down and you make them do the math, it blows them away. I tell people you make two columns on a piece of paper. On the left side, I want you to add up the following things: how much money comes out of your check for Social Security, how much money comes out of your check for Medicaid, how much money comes out of your check for Medicare. Right? I had to add all of that up. Add into it how much money you pay every month to have health insurance. Then add all of your co-payments and your deductibles and all of your out-of-pocket expenses for all your Medicare. You add all of that up on the left side. And on the right side, tell me what 10% of your gross pay is before any deductions are.
Right.
Because in the United Kingdom, 10% of your gross pay gets you all the health care in the world that you want, plus a national pension, their version of Social Security. You pitch in 10%, your employer pitches in 11%. It doesn't matter where you're working. And if you're on some type of life-saving maintenance drug like insulin, you don't pay.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, I'm going, the fucking my sister and my stepsister lives in the UK. They're making it work. They laugh at us for the shit that we pay for and don't get a good result from. We definitely can do this, and it's the biggest no-brainer in the history of this country.
Well, and the other thing that I'm surprised, the thing about oligarchs and the wealthy people in this country and Republicans is how short-sighted they are. Now you're paying 1,800 a month in insurance for your family. If
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have to pay that 1,800 bucks a month, what would you do with it? You'd put it back in the fucking system. You'd
Yeah,
buy more shit. You'd
I'd go
buy
on more
more shit.
vacations.
Exactly. And that's what I've said, like about the student loan thing. Uh, they'll always say, "Well, I got student loans and I paid it off." Yeah, when I went to fucking University of Minnesota, it was 1,500 bucks a semester. It was a lot
Right.
of money at the time, but I could afford to pay it back. Now it's just absolutely ridiculous. I say there's two things we need to do. We need to forgive the loans because they're saddled with these loans, and we need free college education because it's a crisis situation. We've got an epidemic of stupid. We are some dumb motherfuckers in this country compared to other countries. We need a better educated country so they can make more money, so they can pay more taxes. All the old people that talk to me about the student loans, I said, listen to me. You want them to pay back their student loans, but you have a house that's maybe worth four or $500,000. You got it paid off. That's part of your retirement. You're counting on that for your retirement. But now you got millennials and Gen Zs that can't either qualify or afford to buy your house. So what does that mean? The value of your house goes down and your retirement gets worse. Think beyond the end of your fucking nose.
Not only that, but yeah, I mean, do you want to be supporting these fucking kids
No.
coming out of college? I don't want to be supporting these fucking kids. And for a group of people on the far right in this country who constantly bitch and moan about, I don't want my money going to support other people. Well, when you set up a system where people are designed to fail, you're going to wind up supporting these fucking people. So, God damn it, let's make college affordable at a minimum. If not, I'm a firm believer that we need to your public education should not end at the end of high school. It should be extended for 2 years beyond high school. We should
Agreed.
publicly
Yeah.
fund, and in those 2 years, once you graduate high school, you choose whether or not you're going to go to a junior college and get an associate's degree, or whether you're going to go into vocational training or some type of trade school. But we're going to fund both because at the end of the day, I need doctors in the hospital to fix me, and I need someone to build the fucking hospital. And it only benefits me to have an educated workforce.
Have you tried to get a plumber or electrician lately? Every, you know,
Yeah, I
the,
have I have regulars, but yes.
Well, I mean, they always talk about, well, if we get universal health care, we'll have to wait 2 months for something, which is bullshit. But try to get an electrician if you don't have a regular electrician. I've called electricians and they say, well, I can be out there in April 1st, literally. And if I got a leak in my sink, I need them there to fucking day. we need more people in trade schools,
Oh
but
yeah.
everybody wants to be working from home or be an influencer. It's ironic because you and I are technically influencers. I don't know about you, but I didn't make any money for the first 3 years I was doing it. I couldn't afford to do this if I was raising a family.
I okay, so in regards to monetization, I did it for fun from December of 2020 all the way up until my wife lost her job in May of 2024.
Right.
Her income just exploded. Her income became the equivalent to hers, mine, and a third. And so she looked at me and said, "Retire." It was 2018. It was February of 2018. I was 45 years old, and she said, "Retire. We don't need your money anymore." She was knocking on the door at 200K a year, and we were doing fantastic. And so I retired, and she pushed me to start TikTok, and she pushed me to start a podcast, and she pushed me to write my books. I've written two, and she pushed me to do all of it just to kind of because I'm an extrovert. And once I retired, I didn't have workers or customers or vendors, so she would come home from work, and I would unload on her like she was my fucking bartender. And she's like, "You go start social media so you can fucking talk to people." And all of these people showed up when I started talking to social media. I started doing TikToks, and all 1.5 million people showed up. And I started doing YouTubes, and 300,000 people showed up. And she was the sole breadwinner. And then her company went under, and we went from almost 200K a year to nothing overnight. And
That's
I
scary.
started I started putting my resume out. I was like, I'm going back to landscaping because I did that for 26 years. And she said, keep putting your resume out, but let's monetize what you're doing. And I go, we're never going to make enough money. We're never going to make enough money. And she looked at YouTube specifically. I'm now monetized on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit on TikTok. Very small. But YouTube alone, we surpassed her salary the previous year. This in 2025, we blew her salary away.
Are you worried about, I've often thought about that well, first of all, I want to ask you this because I do this because I started in radio when I was 15 years old. So I kind of know how to do this and I've done this all my life. You worked in landscaping. You're a guy in Chicago, but you come on TikTok and YouTube and you have an aptitude for this. I mean, I recognize it as somebody who's been a professional in this, that you have an aptitude for taking the information and spilling it out in such a way where people not only are interested and can comprehend it, but they're attracted to it. How was it that you were able to do that without years of training?
I have absolutely no fucking idea. I all listen. I'm being very serious when I say this to anybody that's listening. People always ask me, "What's the secret? What's the secret?" I have no fucking idea. When it comes to TikTok, I am technologically ignorant. Here's what I know how to do. I know how to recognize bullshit, and I know how to read. And so what I do is I literally hit record. It nothing is written out. There is no script. I speak from my heart. Maybe I've grabbed some screen grabs or another video to show you, and say this is wrong or this is right and that's it. I know how to use green screen and I know how to throw subtitles on the bottom of my videos. And then I post them and I move them over to YouTube where people show up in droves to listen. All I know how to do. Here's what people keep telling me. They keep telling me that they like my realness. Okay, fine. I don't have fucking time to be fake. So I tell how I feel about any given subject, whether it's food, travel, politics, music, Gen Z or Gen X or whatever. I say how I feel. I press record. I flap my fucking gums. And I make sure that before I press record, I take a moment and
Right.
I'm not going
And
to
then,
show you the behind the scenes of me seeing an article about Donald Trump and losing my fucking mind. I focus and then I talk to you,
right.
and then you guys show up and watch.
Well, you said the secret. I've said that to people before. I said, I don't know why people watch me. And then somebody pointed out it's the one thing that's so hard to find out on the social media. It's authenticity. They see you, they know that's really you. They see me, they know that's really me. If they meet me, this is how I fucking act, for better or worse. And
Yeah.
and I think people appreciate the authenticity because I learned very early on with TikTok. I thought, okay, how am I going to get followers? How am I going to get views? I'm probably only going to get a couple thousand, but it'll be fun. And how am I going to do that? And I racked my brain because, I worked in radio. I produced shows. I had to create certain things. So I knew I could kind of get technical or I could do certain things. And then I realized, dude, you're 60 years old. You're not the best looking guy in the world. You're not the funniest guy in the world. You're not even the most talented guy in the world. So I said, fuck it. I'm just going to be myself and let the chips fall where they may. And that's kind of what it sounds like you did.
And listen, I am in no way comparing myself, and I'm going to say this before I wrap up, if you don't mind.
Sure.
But I am in no way comparing myself to a Howard Stern. I am not. But
No,
when I watched Howard Stern's movie, what caused Howard Stern to take off was the moment he stopped doing bits and characters and skits, and he just started talking about his life. And I don't. I've never done a bit on TikTok. I don't do skits. I fucking love it when Hawk puts on the hat and the fake teeth and does the hillbilly. I think it's fucking hilarious. I'm not good at it. I'm not even smart enough to come up with a fancy title or a handle. I'm just Tom Powell Jr.
there you go.
And so it's just like this is me. I'm very flawed. I'm a fucking father of four, grandfather of two, husband of 30 years. These are my political opinions. I like a shitload of tacos. You're going to get a ton of F bombs, and I'm going to talk about weed as much as humanly possible. And if you can stand that, then we're welcome to the fucking club.
There's one thing that I want to bring up before we wrap this up, and I appreciate the time you've given me here.
Absolutely, brother.
Uh, you're a big pizza guy. I'm a big pizza guy.
Yeah.
We come from different worlds. But there's one thing that you like about pizzas that I like that I think a lot of people disagree with this is how you cut a pizza. I don't
Yes.
like the pie shapes. I like the squares.
Yes. So here in the Chicagoland area, cutting a thin crust pizza in squares is called tavern style because
Right.
back in the day, local bars in Chicago would make these super crispy thin crust pizzas and they would cut them into small square pieces and they would leave it out at the end of the bar with a small stack of napkins, and it was designed so that when people got hungry they could grab a little snack, and they kept them at the bar drinking. It was a salty, crunchy snack, and they didn't go leave to eat. And that's true Chicago pizza. Cutting squares is the best thing. And I'm just going to say, from a standpoint of a guy that's been eating square pizza for half a century, there's a way you do it. You start with the corner pieces. Everybody argues over the corner pieces. You pop those in like they're Tic Tacs. You have a couple of the outside pieces with a handle, and you finish with the goodness in the middle where the ingredients are all the way to the edge.
It's hard. I suspect it's easier in Chicago than it is here. It's hard to find the good old school pizza. I used to work in a pizza shop when I was younger, and there's the thin crust is the way to go. But I go into some of these nicer restaurants and they go, "We got pizza." And they come out with fucking weird shit on it and balsamic vinegar. It better only have sausage, pepperoni, maybe hamburger, maybe mushrooms and onions, but don't put that fancy shit on there. That's not pizza to me.
Right. If you want it on your pizza and you want pineapple, and I've seen, like, we're coming up on Easter, people put peeps on pizza. If that's what you want, knock yourself out. Give me a straight, I'm good with a pepperoni pizza. Like you said, some sausage, cut it in squares, throw it on a piece of cardboard and slide it into a white paper bag. I'm good to go.
Absolutely. Last thing I have to say, there's one thing that pisses me. I'm not a violent guy. I don't get angry real easy. I don't lose my temper. But there's one thing that pisses me off, and maybe you disagree with me on this. Somebody gets a pizza, okay, and they take napkins and they soak the grease off the top.
No, you got to
That's
have
the
the
best.
grease.
That's the best motherfucking part.
Yeah, you got to have the grease. That's why you have the soaking wet Italian beef sandwich. That's why you have the greasy pizza or the greasy burger. That's part of it. If you're trying to be healthy, then pizza's not for you.
Exactly. And do not give me a pizza with a cauliflower crust. I will fucking
Amen.
get violent.
Amen.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Well, Tom, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it
I
immensely.
appreciate it.
At this time, I always tell people tell them where they can find you. Clearly, they've already found you, but if there's somebody in my audience that hasn't, let them know how they can find you.
Well, generally speaking, if you want to find everything about me, I have a website called oldhippiemedia.com. Hippie is spelled with an IE, not a Y. Oldhippiemedia.com. You're going to find every podcast that I've ever appeared on. I'll have a link to this, hopefully, on my website at some point in time. Every article I've appeared on, my old blog, links to all my social media, all of it, my books, my merch. It's all in one spot, oldhippiemedia.com.
Well, check out Tom if you haven't already. I'd be surprised if you haven't. Those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. Hope you have a great day. We will talk to you again tomorrow.